Hi everyone, and welcome to Wins and Losses, the show where wins are celebrated and losses are lessons. I'm your host, Renee Seiler, and I wanted to do this show because I feel like a lot of times we focus on the wins in this entrepreneurial journey, and we know it is a lot more than just that. To that end, I have a couple of great guests here, a couple of powerhouse women. Hello, Brandy Smith and Dr. Shade Adu. Ladies, hi, how are you?
Thank you for having us.
I'm excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you because when I said powerhouse, that's not just a little line over there. You all are, do you think of yourself as a powerhouse?
I do, and just so happened that like we've been a dynamic duo, so us taping together, it's just
awesome.
Like even better. My first company was called Powerhouses United, so I like the word, and I like getting with other women who are doing amazing things.
Mm-hmm. You agree?
I absolutely agree.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do. Go ahead, Brandy.
Okay, my name is Brandy Smith, and I own and train child care centers. That's my anchor business, but I'm really passionate about helping other entrepreneurs. So we have a community called Child Care Millionaires where we service over 27,000 child care centers every year.
27,000.
Yes,
Okay.
and I feel it sometimes to run a more efficient business, but I'm really also passionate about community development. So my husband and I recently have really started a lot of real estate ventures rebuilding our community.
I am Dr. Shade Adu, and I help brilliant women entrepreneurs turn their expertise, experience, and education into online courses, digital programs, products and services, and live events.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm glad for that. Did you fall into, how did you get into your business? How did that get started?
How did we get started? So I actually started my business almost 10 years ago in the Republic of Kazakhstan. So 10 years ago, I was living in Central Asia, near Russia and China. It was really cold. And I took a leap of faith to leave my international teaching job. My background's in education. I was traveling the world, living my best life in my mid and early 20s. And then God had a new plan for me.
Wow.
And he said, take a leap of faith to start this business. Now, I didn't hate my job. I loved education. I was happy. I was making good oil money in my early 20s. And God said you had to do something different. So next part of my life was to inspire and impact people. And I knew that the internet and creating digital businesses was going to be my vehicle to help impact people around the world. And I knew that my mission and vision was bigger than the four walls of the classroom. And I cried leaving the classroom because they make you feel guilty in education. We both come from educational backgrounds. They make you feel extremely guilty for leaving and wanting to have other aspirations. But I knew that my calling was bigger than those four walls, and I had to go act on that calling.
Wow. Brandy, what about you? How did you get started?
Well, my story is a little bit different. I wanted to open my first center for about 7 years, kind of really after learning and experiencing firsthand just the disparity in educational readiness in our Black and brown children. And I kept saying, I can do better. But I was really comfortable. I had just got to the point where I was making six figures in education, and that's almost unheard of. And I can remember God, similarly pulling me to something different, but he had to push me off the cliff. I didn't go willingly. I can remember just getting my dream job, and I was making six figures. I was running a staff of 300, and they decided to downsize. You know how it is. If you're the last one hired, you're also the first one to kind of get downsized. And I thought this is the perfect opportunity. They were going to throw me a little coin. This is the perfect opportunity for me to, really go full after my dream. So after literally waiting 7 years, and within 7 weeks, we had opened our first school.
Oh my gosh.
It's just that thing when you think you have more time, you take more time. And I can remember thinking, you know what? I'm not going to put my future in anyone's hand anymore. I did some reckless things. I went and traded in my Toyota Camry. Went and got an Escalade. I was like, if they're going to take something, it ain't going to be my beat up Camry. They're going to have to get a real tow truck to get this. And from that day to this day, I look back and I'm amazed of the new person I am. I feel like I'm still evolving. There will be another me one day, but I'm really happy with the person I'm becoming.
Wow. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that. That was scary though.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the fear of Because there is some security when you're a 1099 versus,
And I was W-2. I was predictable. I had insurance. I had what I thought was a good retirement plan. I did the right thing. I think we both did. We got the good jobs that our families told us to go get, but we knew that I knew for me it wasn't going to really feed my spirit. It may have fed my pockets and let me live comfortable, but not the way I really wanted to. And there were always going to be a ceiling of like what the school district would allow me to do with the children that I loved. And I didn't want to be bound to those rules. So it was liberation for me. And the financial gain came much, much later. But it was having the confidence I know. And I can remember when I was really worried about the money, God said to me, don't hold on to $100,000 a year when I can give you $100,000 a month. And if you really test me, I can give you $100,000 a day. And it was like, don't put these box limitations on what I have for you. I have a path that's totally different from you. If you walk it, I'm going to bless it. And so he's blessed it.
Wow.
So you have to build your capacity to dream big. And watching Brandy grow her businesses and build it expands my own capacity. So when I used to live overseas, I didn't travel to a lot of places when I originally was there, but I was around people who were world travelers and they worked for the embassies. So they'd been to 50 and 60 different countries. So once I heard that and that seed was planted, it allowed me to see that, people who look like me can go to different countries, and it's okay for me to travel solo. So in that same vein, when I came into the entrepreneurial space, I knew it was important to surround myself with people who were doing things that I couldn't even fathom. And once they made my ceiling their floor and they made it normal, it was okay to talk about $100,000 days, $1 million, six-figure deals, because it became normal. So the key really is if you want to expand your capacity, you got to get into new environments with new people.
So Brandy, you mentioned just a second ago about having a good job and why that was so important for our family. So for you guys to become entrepreneurs, that's a big deal, right?
And definitely, I think our family has a natural inclination to protect us. Even our friends, I can remember one of my sorority sisters called me and she was like, girl, you leaving your job to go play with kids? And she couldn't really understand. She thought I was like self-destructing. She's like, are you going through a midlife crisis? They were trying to do an intervention. They just totally didn't understand it, right? Now she's like, girl, when we going to the Mykonos, it's totally different. But our family, they have a natural inclination to protect us. Now, my parents were a little bit different. They were adventurous. And when it came to entrepreneurship, I saw them both like track a course, but people just try to put you in a box. My mom, she was the type of mom who, if you said you want to fly, she'd be like, let me find some needle and thread. I'm going to sew you some wings, right? And she would allow us to do different things. But I think the world in general, the Black family, they really get a good job, stay on that job. I saw my grandfather stay on that job for 53 years, but then, die a few years later without really living. And I didn't want that to be my story.
Wow.
And I definitely want to add another cultural element. So my mother is from the South, and she was a sharecropper. My grandparents were sharecroppers. They picked up tobacco and cotton, and they knew how to work hard. That was just their livelihood. And on the other side of my family, they're from Ghana, West Africa. So they were immigrants, and that's all they knew how to do was to work multiple jobs. So me coming in and experiencing this cultural family, I call us the African Black Brady Bunch. We had collard greens and fufu and jollof rice and macaroni and cheese on Sundays. And all I heard growing up was go to school and get a good job. There was no other concept, and it was always you had to work hard. So these ideas of entrepreneurship they couldn't fathom it. Success was you went to school and you got a job, you go to work again, and that was it. And I just knew that there was something more for me.
When, like Brandy said, her girlfriends were trying to carry out an intervention, what was it like for your family and even your friends when you said, I'm really going to leave my teaching job and do this thing? What was their reaction?
Well, they were already used to me doing wild things. I moved to 5,000 miles away to Kazakhstan. So they really weren't surprised by my shenanigans. That was the first thing. So I had already said, I'm leaving America. And they were like, what do you do? When, where, and why? It ends in Stan. So they were already familiar with Sade's going to do something different. my mother was extremely supportive. She was like, whatever you're going to do, I support you 100%. But my father is like, what are you going to do with these degrees? You have a degree. I don't understand. What is the meaning of you doing this? So they really didn't get it. And I don't think my African side of the family understands. They still don't. But when you have successes and wins and things like that, then they're like, oh, that is my daughter. She's my sister. My sister. So they understand a little bit. And even my sister, my oldest sister, she doesn't get what I do, but she will like and share on Facebook. She will be a fan. So they're understanding it now. And then my nieces and nephews, I have 13 nieces and nephews, they're getting to see it. And they're a new generation of Black and American children. So they have a different layer. And they're getting to see, like, you can do something different. Yes. So that's what if Auntie Sade can do it, we can do it too.
I love this team, this team of powerhouse women. Tell me, because I know you guys have history.
Oh, I stalked her.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I stalked her. It was a point in my business where we had the centers and they were going great, 7-figure empire. And I can remember being on stage and God said to me, you need to teach people about daycare. And I was like, no, I don't, because I don't want to be known as the daycare lady. I'm too fly for this, clearly. You had to be talking to somebody else. And he's like, no, I'm wise enough to be obedient. So I put out a Facebook message and I said, who wants to learn about how to open a childcare center? And within an hour, about 300 people responded. And I was like, okay, God, you chose me. I understand now. And so I had wrote this ebook, and literally at the time I came across Sade, because she was always visible online. I was like, people would buy the ebook with like a PayPal link, and I would manually deliver it to them. Like I would forward an email to them. And I was like, I need help. I had done that 1,000 times before I stalked her, and she began to help me. And that was just the start of our relationship. Since then, we've made, millions of dollars together, and, we put on events together. And I think that's really good about, if we talk about wins and losses, I could have took that as a loss that I didn't have the systems, but it was a win, the relationship. And I feel like hopefully I've been a win for her too, because, we are able to share in revenue, cash infusion, platforms. So having a person that you can really partner with, it took my brand much further, much faster.
Do you agree, Sade, that is the important piece, or a critical part, is to have someone who can relate?
In this journey, you need support. And for me, I was so insecure going into business because I leaned on being a teacher. You just got a degree, you got to go to school, you work hard, and I was okay with that side of my life. So in going into entrepreneurship, I was just extremely afraid of my own shadow. So she had to.
I can't believe that. I cannot believe that.
I stalked
Really?
him.
It took so long, and that's like a major loss for me. It took so long for me to believe in myself that it's okay for you to help entrepreneurs, because in my mind, I'm coming from go to school, get a job, get this degree, that you have to have an MBA. And I went to the University of Pennsylvania School of Education. Up the street was the School of Business Wharton, one of the best schools in the world. And what I realized was later in business, you can just hire somebody who works at Wharton to work for you. You don't have to go get this MBA, Sade, do. And once I realized that, I became more confident in me. And that's part of this journey that I had to take stepping into entrepreneurship. But insert Brandy Smith, this woman who is older than me. It's like a mirror of what's possible for me. And she saw what I was doing, and she was like, you know how to do this. And I'm like, maybe. She's like, no, you do. And you're going to do it for me, and I'm going to pay you. This is what's going to happen. And she just kind of forced it. And then I had to be okay. And then we started producing results. And you can't deny the results that are produced.
That's right.
You can't deny the fruit. You can lie to yourself and say that it's not an apple, but if it's an apple and an orange and you see it and other people see it, you can't deny the fruit. And she had fruit, and we produced it together. So that just naturally built my confidence. And then we kept doing more things and more things. And I'm like, well, let's test this out. And then she became a case study. And then I'm like, well, if Brandy can do it, you can do it too. And if Brandy can do it, Sade, I can do it too.
Wow. I paired you guys together because there was this sense of Black women win. with each other. And I feel like that's exactly what you just said. It was this, we're not competing with each other. We are actually supporting one another, and we all win, right? Let's talk about some of the hard times and some losses. The show is called Wins and Losses. So
Girl, do we have any tissue on set?
Oh, yeah. How long is this going to take?
All right, let's talk about some of the times that have been difficult for you. Brandy, what would you consider a big loss in your journey?
I can think of a lot of them. But the one that stands out the most, I think people probably could relate to, more than anything, goes back to like that delaying of what you already know is true about yourself, because you don't want to leave a space of comfort. And I feel like I lost so much time not living my full self and, shrinking. And when I figured out, girl, you just too big to shrink, and I began to live all out, it allowed me permission to fail and be fine with it. Like, I put out things and it failed, and I put out things that is sold out. And I really don't care anymore, because now I understand that's a part of the process. But it took me a long time to get there, and I thought every failure was a sign that I should stop. Or every failure is a sign that the universe is conspiring against you to lose. And then I was like, no, it don't work like that. I'm building a muscle. And when I figured out, hey, this is just a muscle building activity, I was like, I gotta go through some of the lessons and bumps in order to build a multiple 7-figure business. And I really do aspire to have $1 million empire. And when I look at some of these people who have built $1 billion empire, they've had extreme losses, bankruptcies, failures, buildings burned down, things taken away. And I'm like, and they're okay, they're still standing. So I don't take those hits anymore like they're fatal. It's not a fatal thing that just happened. Learn the lesson from it and move on. But gaining that stamina to, take the blow and get right back up, it took a while. I used to take the blow and I would just get paralyzed. And that's the worst thing you can do in entrepreneurship, because things in motion stay in motion, but things at rest stay at rest. And when you stop, you literally, have to do a deadlift to get, that momentum back up. So, I keep rolling. Sometimes I roll crying. Sometimes I roll when my edge is not right. Sometimes I roll, when people disappoint me. But I keep rolling, because the worst thing I can do is stop.
Wow, that is so profound. And yet so simple. But how do we seem to forget that. I think when we go through a loss, Sade, maybe you can speak to this, immediately we want to retreat. Mm-hmm. We want to go somewhere where we can lick our wounds, and we don't want the world to see us, and we don't want to, pull ourselves together. How do you get past that?
Well, that was the first thing I actually did. I went to hiding. While I've been in this entrepreneurial journey, I also was working on my PhD, and I'm a Bill and Melinda Gates scholar. So at that time, I had exhausted my academic funding, over 10 years of funding. Uncle Bill said he's no longer cutting any more checks. My mother was going through a divorce. A relationship that I was in for over a decade that I thought would end in marriage was ending. I was depressed, sad, homeless. So I had to move to North Carolina, to the home that my grandfather built 50-something years before, in the middle of nowhere, population 10 people. We didn't have a car. The closest grocery store is probably about 30 minutes away, and I went to retreat. And before I got there, I said, we at least have to have internet, because I run an internet business, and we had to have the satellite dish. And when it rains, there's no internet. And I'm like, how am I running an internet business? But I was depleted, I was broke, I was depressed, I was sad, I forgot how to make money. And I was so embarrassed because I didn't finish school. I wasn't being successful as an entrepreneur, and my personal life was shattering. And I needed a place of refuge. In North Carolina, Wood, North Carolina was that refuge for me. And I used it as a catalyst to rebuild. But I had to run away. I had to retreat and be around the country for a while until I was able to bounce back and remember who I was and whose I was and remember how to make money. I remember moving to North Carolina and not even having enough money for the rental car because my credit card maxed out and I just needed $700 and I could not remember how to do that. But prior I had made 6 figures and I was like, I just need $1,000 and my brain couldn't work to make $1,000. And I just had to bounce back, but it was so embarrassing because I publicly still looked successful. I was still showing up regardless, but I was depleted financially, mentally, spiritually. And it was just an opportunity to bounce back. And I was like, well, if this is rock bottom, we're never going to be here ever again. And, family has been amazing. They don't understand my entrepreneurship journey, but they understand how to love on me. They understand how to make a meal. They understand how to pray. And I really leaned on them. And I will say, during the pandemic, partnering with Brandy, I was able to buy a car in full. I was able to move. I was able to get the good internet again so we could actually run this business. I was able to, while in North Carolina, have a multiple 6-figure day. When I got there, I couldn't even remember how to make $1,000. So even though it was a place that I had to rebuild and I had to heal my heart, it was still an opportunity for me to grow and get to the next level.
Is there a time that you went through that, Brandy, where you had to kind of get small and retreat from the world for just, even if it was just for a day or?
Oh yeah, definitely. Our stories are very similar. It wasn't a retreat for a day. And I don't want to say I got small, because that would give the devil a little bit too much something that I don't want to give him. But I can say I kind of had to go within myself to make sure that we were okay, because it's hard to build on a shaky foundation. And so when you're cracked, everything will leak that you're trying to do. Hurt people. So a lot of times when you see entrepreneurs out here being reckless and wild, I'd be like, who hurt her? Like, it's something there that had to have happened where now this is like a protection mechanism. I can remember going back home. I was shared with you before, I had gotten a divorce, and me and my kids were in the car, and I was like, girl, you can go home. You can at least go home. Like, you don't have to be crazy. So I remember going home and I went back into the school system at this point, and I kind of learned to dream again. But more than anything during that time, kind of going back to family and that love, it does help you. But I also had to remember that there were some things that God promised me and us as a people, right? And it was up to me to call those things back into my life. And so while I felt not strong, I just remember I would pray this one scripture. And then I guess when he unhid me, I was really out there. I was like, God, just hide me under the shadow of your wings. Because I knew that even in this time where I was kind of rebuilding myself, if I was under his shadow, I would be okay. But I knew I was coming back, And so when he let me come back and play out my life fully, people are really surprised, because what they thought was going to destroy me, it really didn't. It only built my muscle. And so I'm not really scared of adversity anymore. I used to freak out and what are we going to do? I would just literally freak out. I know some of y'all out there are freaking out too. And I used to literally freak out. And then I had to come to the point is, if you're going to trust him, trust him. Can't just trust when it's good. Can't just trust when it's bad. You can't just be a businesswoman when it's good, and then, when it's bad, I'm going back. You gotta be singly focused, because if not, you're double-minded, and then you're unstable in all your ways. So if this is my course, I gotta take the good and the bad. And when I do have to be hidden, if I have to go away or reset or take my staycations, I make sure I infuse myself with affirmations and the word of God, because if nobody else reminds me of who I am, I got to remind myself of who I am. I can't wait on anyone else to say, girl, you bad. Girl, get up. You have something to give the world. People are depending on you. You dependent on you. I have to take responsibility of that for myself.
Sade, you had mentioned that you had gone through some of the things that you've gone through, but also grief was one of the things that you talked about. So really the grief of not just losing someone, but also losing the relationship and the life that you thought you were going to have, right? What was that like, dealing with that?
That, being a single woman with no children, this is a conversation we have a lot, especially successful women. Are you going to be single forever? And a lot of times we get chastised. Oh, you can move the way you move because you are single. And I have aspirations, and Brandy knows this. She's going to be the godmother of this future child, whenever this future child happens, of my desires. And being okay and being vocal about it and being vulnerable and saying, yes, this is still an aspiration that I have. And I was clinging on to that relationship because it was comfortable. And that was not the person I was supposed to be with, but that person was there. And also feeling insecure about being so ambitious and saying, will somebody want me because I'm so ambitious? And they always portray these single Black women as being overly ambitious, and men are not going to want you. And these are just some of the narratives that you hear in the market.
We're still doing it.
It's a reality.
So sick.
It's a reality. And these are conversations that I'm having with fellow Black women who are also getting multiple degrees, and we're looking at a table of ourselves, and all of us are single, but we got a bunch of degrees. So it was a challenge for me to make these decisions, but it was the best decision. I don't want that person no more, let's be clear. That was the way best decision, but it was hard. It was extremely hard. And I realized through therapy I was grieving. I'm grieving the life that I thought I was supposed to have. I'm grieving the decisions that I thought I was supposed to make. And I've written about this in some anthologies about renegotiating greatness. Am I going to choose my greatness, or am I going to choose my comfort? Or am I going to choose what I think I want? Am I going to choose what God said I'm supposed to have, or am I going to choose the life that I think I'm supposed to have? And I chose greatness. And then I also think about the consequences of the decision I made. And I have to be okay with that decision, regardless of how it ends, because it's going to end the way it's supposed to. So I will say one thing that's been instrumental for me is going to therapy, being honest about these conversations. You know, it's not just about business. I want to have a great life. And life requires relationships, and part of those relationships are romantic relationships, and making my expectations and intentions and desires of my heart known and being unapologetic about it. Like, we're going to have a great business, and we're going to have a great life, and we're going to have great relationships. And again, looking at someone like Brandy, where she's unapologetic about all the parts of her life. I'm going to be with my man. I'm going to see Suge. I'm going to be with the kids. And we're going to make billions. We're going to have the Birkin, the block, the bank. We're going to have all the B's. And the Bentley. Don't forget the Bentley. So making me understand, you don't have to choose. It's a both and. We just have to figure out how to make it coexist in the life that you're co-creating for yourself. So it's definitely a challenge, but therapy is important.
Wow.
Yes, I love it. I'm proud of you.
Wow.
Y'all getting me emotional.
And I do have some non-negotiables in my life. You cannot access me if you don't honor me. And I don't mean reverence me or this kind of honor. I mean, if you don't honor who I am, my family, then I can't have space for you, you know, in my close quarters. This space that I have to protect it, and because I have to also protect God's gifts. But I have to have this inner level, and I have to have people supporting me, and then I still have to get my masses out to the millions. So I've just learned how to navigate in difficult situations. I learned not to lose my cool, because sis can pop off, but it don't serve me. So, you know, I don't pop off the same way I used to, and I don't internalize things like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? I'm like, okay, this happened. What do we do next? And those were the two big, I guess, mindset shifts I had to have. Yeah, it happened, but it ain't happened to me. I don't have to internalize this and call them out. I don't have to rock this loss. I don't have to nurture it and let it build. It happened. Let's go. Let's move on. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned from my losses. And I got a loss. That means a win is around the corner. So, hey, win.
So when I think about my loss and when I had to seek refuge at my grandfather's house, I think about decisions he made before I was even born, because he built that house, and he couldn't receive a bank loan in the South, the Jim Crow South. They would not give this Black man with a third grade education a bank loan. And he said, you can't tell me what I'm going to have and what I can't have. And he went to the lumber yard, and every week he got people to help him build this new home, because my grandmother said, we need a new house, Roger. And that decision was made 50, 60 years before I was even thought of. And he could have took that loss and not built that home. And then my brother inherited that home and renovated it, and I thought he was crazy. But I didn't realize that that was going to be my place of refuge. So even in my place of refuge, I think about this might be the loss, but we can't stay here because 50 years from now, 100 years from now, somebody in my bloodline is going to need something that I created to be a refuge for them. Just like my grandfather had so much foresight with third grade education. So I can't stop because somebody's gonna be thanking me, somebody's gonna be talking about me 100 years from now, like we talk about Madam C.J. Walker. So this can't be the final chapter. This is just a pause, a semicolon. There has to be more going on because somebody else needs this story. And now when I look at the losses, because I look at how Brandy handles challenges, now I look at the losses and I say, you know what, we're gonna take a nap, we're gonna get our staycation, our spa day, and we're going to also monetize this because this mess didn't happen to me for no reason.
Yes.
How can we monetize this loss? How can we talk about this challenge and share it with other people so that they can learn from us and be better? So this didn't happen to me for no reason. And I always end it with, as long as I have more breath in my body, I wake up the next day, God gave me the capacity to fix it. It's all figure outable. So TSP has been transformational. I was waiting and hesitating to get in this community because I was like, I gotta finish school. And Brandy was like, you could be a rich college student or a broke one. You gotta make a decision. And I'm so happy that I listened to her because it informed my PhD research. I looked at Black entrepreneurs and their experiences and what makes them successful. And TSP, based on the research, has the toolkit for success. If we want more Black entrepreneurs, when Black people, and even specifically Black women, have more, statistically, we do good things in the world. And that's a part of my life mission. We build schools, we build funds, we give back. The kids are fed, the husbands are good, the extended families are taken care of. So if this is what I intrinsically believe, I need to be in communities of people who are doing the work at a bigger level, who are bringing world-class education to people who traditionally don't have access to capital and information and people. So this is my life's work, you know? So being a part of this community is just in alignment with what I believe is going to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. So I found TSP and everybody in the Facebook group, they were talking about me because I put a post, and it was a sincere post. I was like, I'm a school owner. Will coming to the conference even help me? Because I thought it was like for traditional business. So, girl, they drug me through the mud. They was like, I mean, what does she mean? Will it help? And now, after 4 years, I've been the resident host and MC at TSP, and everyone affectionately calls me Mother Woods, and I love it. But for me, TSP has meant so much. It took me a while to break like 100 million. Yeah, girl.
Yes.
You received
We
it?
received it.
It took me a while to break $1 million a year, right? And I just couldn't like do it. I would get to it and man, just couldn't push through it. Within 3 months of being in TSP, we pushed through our $1 million a year. But that was like not even the big thing. I opened a business while in TSP, and it was a business that I actually came the first time, which was our Association for Childcare Owners. And the first year we worked together, I made $1,000 in that business, and then 10, and then 600,000, and now 2 million last year. And we're tracking that, and we built that within the last 3 years, right here. But not just that. So TSP has another group called the Collaborative, and basically, this is for people who have already reached the 7-figure mark. And I was like, at first I was like, And that's like, I got to do it. If you qualify for it, girl, do it. Splurge a little bit. And so in some of our teachings, it taught me something that I did not anticipate doing. All of the businesses that I know that most Black people have, they've built it. Mm-hmm. But we went to one training, and it was about 12 or 14 of us on this beautiful island in Anguilla, and this gentleman introduced the concept of, won't you buy businesses? And I was like, I can buy money? Wait a minute. I don't have to build it from scratch. I don't have to find the first customer. Now, I know I wanted to sell my business all this time, but I never thought, Renee, you should buy a business. So me and my husband went on a buying business frenzy, and we started buying. We bought our local laundromat, our local salon. We bought a whole strip center. We bought one lady, she had a real estate portfolio. We bought her a real estate portfolio. And I was like, I don't have to start from scratch. Wow. And that was, I would say, one of the hugest aha moments for me, that I could literally buy the life that I wanted, that someone else had blood, sweat, and sweat equity for years. This lady, she had owned these houses a little over 20 years, and she said, I'm ready to retire. I heard that you were buying property in the area. Would you like all of these? And I was like, yes! But I wouldn't have even thought about that as a part of our wealth strategy. So I've learned so many things about how to be wealthy. I think our people really know how to be broke. And we really know how to survive. And, we can, I was on food stamps before. I could help a mother do that. Or I could help a mother get assistance for childcare. But I couldn't teach no one how to charter a plane. Or, what it meant to have a personal butler. Or what it means to set up a trust for your family. Or why your company needs to be in Delaware and not in Texas. I couldn't teach anyone that because I hadn't been exposed to wealth and the strategies of the wealthy. But being here, now I know how to create wealth, I know how to protect my wealth, and now I know how to teach others how to become wealthy. And it's all because of the community. Thank you, Brandy and Lamar, for such an excellent job.
You guys, this has been so enlightening, and I really thank you for your candor and for just being really honest and open. A lot of times we want to hide the bad things, but I really appreciate the fact that you that we went deep with that. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Wins and Losses. We'll see you next time.